Da jeg langt om længe nåede til Tauranga, cyklede jeg videre til pappamor, hvor Todd Couper han bor. Og Todd, han tog mig med ud i værkstedet, og vi fik en rigtig god snak om det arbejde, han laver.
Kia ora, my name is Todd Couper. I'm an artist and I work with wood. I'm a woodcarver. I live here in Papamoa, but I'm from Wairoa over in Hawke's Bay. And this is a presentation that I do often to people that want to come and see what I do. So that's me, and this is my marae back in on the Mahia Peninsula, Tuahuru marae. And that's the view. If you're looking from the porch of the marae, that's the view out to the Pacific Ocean. So it's literally across the road from the sea. Wrong way. This is me growing up. So I'm about 8 or 9 there. So I did a lot of hunting and outdoor stuff when we were little. Our dad took my brother and I out hunting all the time. So why I've got that in there is because it's really become quite an inspiration for a lot of my works and my forms that I do. So this was a typical weekend for us. That's my dad and his dogs out in the bush. So yeah, we learnt a lot. He taught us a lot about the environment and birds and all that type of thing. So I thought it would be cool to do a carving of the wild boar and sort of acknowledging him and what he taught us. And then so the beginning of my carving journey, started working alongside Roy Toya. He was my wood carving teacher when I was in my final graduating year at Waiariki. So after I finished that year, he asked if I'd like to carry on carving with him in his workshop. So of course I couldn't turn that opportunity down, and long story short, him and I ended up working together for over 16 years. So we started out, the first year we just carved flat out, and we had an exhibition to sort of as part of a goal for that first year. And then after that we thought, well, we'll make a go of it and become full-time artists. So we always worked on our own individual pieces, and I just kind of learnt from Roy by watching and listening, and he would show me some techniques and explain to me about things to do with whakairo, and then I'd go away and practice them. So we always worked on our own individual works, and I was just alongside him. So it was a good way of learning. And then so we thought, if we start out as full-time artists, we're going to start right from the start, of course, as any business does. So we wanted to focus on our precision, or our kind of being really particular and taking time to finish our works as well as we could. So we started out working with different galleries, a few outlets, and we would put forms like these carved bowls, and we'd have them turned out of native woods and carve patterns on them. But each and every piece that we did, even though it was small or whatever it was for, we always made sure to give our 100%, because we were at that stage, we needed to make a name for ourselves, build up a profile and a reputation as being quality carvers, quality artists. So yeah, so it started from there. Then we were doing things like smaller sort of traditional style masks, faces, and then some more contemporary forms, a few small weapons, and some motto forms, and all these types of pieces that pretty much paid our bills, sort of thing, until we were able to move on to bigger things. And then in 96, both of us got the opportunity to work on the Te Papa Tongarewa project, the marae Rongo Marairo, I think the name of the marae is. The project was led by Cliff Whiting, and it was a marae built in a contemporary context, although it still followed on the traditional customs. But it was a marae to represent all cultures of New Zealand, and was built in a very modern technique. So the technique was using particle board or custom wood and cutting shapes out, pour boiling water on them, bend them into forms, and when they dried they would hold the shape. So Cliff showed us this technique and then pretty much left it up to us to come up with forms. He'd say, I need 6 figures for here, and he'd say, right, where you go. And so there was artists from all over the country that came, a lot of students, and so we were left up to come up with these forms ourselves. So it's a really quite an eclectic styled house. You know, it's like the techniques are kind of all the same, but the actual forms that we all came up with were quite different, but everything works. And that was a good thing in the sense that what the house represented was all cultures of New Zealand. So there were Pākehā artists, Maori artists working on the project. So it was a huge learning curve for both Roy and I. And then so when we went back, these are some of our forms that we came up with. So, you know, like the total opposite of what we were used to. So we're adding pieces together to come up with a form rather than starting from one block of wood and subtracting. Yeah, so when we went back to our own shed, back to our own workshop, we started employing some of these techniques in our own practice, which was cool. You know, it sort of took our pieces to another level, I guess, or just added another dimension. So Roy ended up going back to using native woods, but that whole additive technique. And for me, I started using a lot of colour, using airbrush and that kind of thing. So that was a real positive experience for us. Plus we were getting paid while we were there. So that was good too. And then in 1999, Roy went over to Canada as part of a trade expo and met up with, had a meeting at the Spirit Wrestler Gallery in Vancouver. And he met up with this guy here, Nigel Redding, who decided after meeting Roy and June Grant that he loved the artwork, loved them as a people, and he had a connection to New Zealand himself. So he thought, wow, I'd love to represent Maori art. So at the time they had First Nations artists and Inuit artists, and so he took the plunge and started representing Maori art, and did so for 20 years. Yeah, so Roy and I were able to go there, you know, as part of exhibitions and learn from the First Nations culture over there. They got a lot of huge similarities over there, the same as we have, the same type of values to do with the environment and land, and they're tribal like we are and all that sort of thing. So very similar culture to us, and they were really accommodating and welcoming of us to be there and exhibit alongside them, which was awesome. So part of this working with the gallery was that they held 2 major exhibitions, cross-cultural ones, Kiwa, which was in 2003, and Manawa, which was in 2006, and both huge exhibitions with, I think, around about 40 artists in each one. So it was a great time for us to go and chair and all of that type of thing, to meet with the clientele and to really promote our work on the global stage in North America. So it was massive, and of course we got to witness a lot of their culture, their customs, protocols, and which were again a lot similar to ours. So we got on really well with them and were able to meet some of their very high profile artists. So quite lucky, and to be able to spend time with them and to learn from them and even work alongside them. And it created a whole lot of these ongoing connections with some of their artists and us, and we've had different festivals in New Zealand as well, so they've come over for them especially, and we've been able to host them, which has been, it's great for us for that whole kind of reciprocity thing. And so for me, I thought one thing I'd like to do is acknowledge them as a people and as a culture, because I'm exhibiting on their whenua. So I did this piece called rangatira, meaning chief or chiefliness, to acknowledge them. So the mask is, I've tried to draw out, some of their features, and also using horsehair, which is one of the mediums that they tend to use quite a lot, which now I've used in my own works too. So just that whole acknowledgement. And for me as an artist, every artist has their own individual processes. For me, I'm a real planner, I like precision, I like things to be in order and be precise. So if somebody comes to me with a commission saying, I want you to do a piece for me to do with an owl, so what I'll do is I'll start looking at photos, make sure I get the right form that I'm after, have a cordial with them to make sure that they might have some suggestions, or they might have a story that they want incorporated. Then I'll do some research in some of our traditional narratives, and maybe take some of that to add that into the story of the piece. Then I'll start drawing, and then once I come up with a drawing that I'm happy with, then I'll refine that, and then I'll send that to the client. Once they agree, yep, I'm happy with that, then I'll start and I'll transfer that drawing onto the wood, and then go from there and start, taking the wood away. And in the beginning stages, I'm using chainsaws and power tools and grinders and all that type of thing to get the initial form or the basic shape as close to it as I can, and then from there I'll switch over into using chisels and knives. And so everything that's in its finished form is all done with knives and chisels, blades here. And then so another part of the process too is hollowing things out. So anything that's sculptural, if I'm able to, I try and hollow it out as much as I can, just to get rid of moisture that's within the wood, and that it makes it a better piece for starters. It makes it nice and thin and refined, but also helps with the cracking process, so it'll slow the cracking down. So that's another thing that I do. And bronzes is another medium that I work in. I don't go through the whole casting side of things myself, but if I'm thinking of doing a bronze edition, I'll carve the original, have a look at the form, and if I think that it's going to work in bronze, it'll translate well into bronze, I'll do an edition, but only of 10, just to keep it exclusive. And it has to be the right piece, because some sculpture, some carvings especially, they work well in wood, but they don't necessarily translate into bronze because the light hits it a different way. I feel that with wood, the light absorbs, the wood absorbs the light, and in bronze it kind of reflects it, so you've got this whole different look and feel about a piece just through it being of two different mediums, the wood to the bronze. Wood's warm, bronze is more a colder type medium. But I love bronze and its permanency, and it's tough and it's strong, and it's got some history of its own, and it's still very much a quality material. So that's why I still only do an edition of 10 if I do one. Yeah.
But right now you're working on a quite large piece.
Yeah. So this piece that I'm working on at the moment is a commission for a company in the States, in Philadelphia, and so it's based on a waka form. if you go around there, bro, I'll lift it up so you can see it. Just put this down here for a minute. So this is the main part of the piece. So the hull of the waka. So it's all to do with to relate to the company itself. So the waka form or the canoe form kind of represents the company itself, and the figure on the end here, the rangatira or the captain of the waka, he's represents all the company values, the operations and the ethic and all that sort of thing. The actual form of the hull is in the form of a whale's tail, so that represents a kaitiakitanga or a guardianship, or kind of like that sort of spiritual safety net, I guess. So that's what that talks about. There's also a little ruru or an owl face that goes in there, and that talks about that kaitiakitanga as well from a land point of view, and the whale tail from the sea point of view. And the whole and the concept of the wakas, it's you're all in the same waka in the company, you're moving in a forward direction, and because it's a company that distributes fertilizer all over the world, talks about, like for us as Maori, that's how we moved from place to place, from country to country, and that's how we migrated to Aotearoa, was through the waka. So it's quite a powerful symbol. And there's a bird that goes on the front, and that's a migrating bird, the koikoia or the long-tail cuckoo, and that talks about environmental knowledge. So that's relating back to the company on how they relate to the people that they are working with to get their best results. And also there's like some forms in the middle here that represent the people of the company, but also the people of other cultures that they work with. So I'm making them out of different types of timbers to represent that cultural diversity, that sort of thing. So there's a lot in it. There's a lot of story and explanation that comes behind it. I've got to add colour as well, which will be the last thing I do. And I started it in March, I think, and I've probably got another couple of months to go on it. So it's been quite a big project for me. Yeah. That's it there. You'll be able to see the owl and the other forms that I'm adding in there. See the bird on the front and the people forms and the weapon at the back that he's holding. So yeah, it's a big project which I'm really enjoying, because it's allowed me to kind of really get my teeth into it, and take it to another level. I don't have any deadline as such, but I know that I need to finish it at some point, and I'm getting there, but I do have a bit of freedom so that I can go the extra mile and do things that I probably normally wouldn't do, but I've thought about doing. So using a lot of undercuts to show shadow and that, and because it's to go on a wall, so it's really a flat type looking piece, but the challenge for me was to try and create layers and shadows so that it looks like it's off the wall, or it's deeper than it kind of is, which is something that I really like doing with my work here.
Todd Couper er en utrolig dygtig kunsthåndværker. Og prøv at lægge mærke til nogle detaljer. Efter besøget hos Todd Couper hoppede jeg op på cyklen igen og fortsatte til Rotorua. Men det er en helt anden historie.